Hey there, welcome back to Cisco Reads Books. Today we got the monthly wrap-up for you for July 2026. The wrap-up for Independence July. And with that theme, remember that we are now ranking the books from least enjoyed to most enjoyed. The ranking system is still the old system. We're doing the Goodreads 5 stars, whatever. Next month we will be doing the new rating system that I've kind of come up with that goes a little bit more in depth. But starting off is our book that we read for Independence July, and that is Jeff Shara's Rise to Rebellion. So I gave this a 3.5 stars on Goodreads. Well, they don't do 0.5s, but I do. It wasn't a horrible book. It was good. It was very historical, very political. Not many of the battles are on the page. But wonderful if you're into American history, and especially the American Revolution. I highly suggest that you do check it out just so that you can get a feel for the characters of the time. John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, the leader of the British Army. The amount of historical data that Jeff Shara puts into his books is just fantastic. So I would check it out for that reason alone. And see if maybe you like it better. The next one is Scott McEwen and Thomas Colinar's Sniper Elite. This one also got a 3.5 star rating. Fantastic military thriller. Very much written for the current events of the time. Taking place in Afghanistan with the rise, or right before the rise of the Caliphate. So just another good read. Very brutal trigger warnings here for sexual assault on a female helicopter pilot. But other than that, fantastic book. Can't wait to continue with the series. There's three more books in this series. So, before I go any further, so this month I read 9 books, which isn't as many as I would have liked to, but that's where we are. So the next one is Non-Interference by Harry Turtledove. And this is a fantastic sci-fi novel written by the master of alternate history himself. And just a book that really shows how digging into a culture that is less advanced than you and leaving them with advanced things can affect a society as a whole. Like I said, another great book. This one I gave 4 stars, and just, yeah, it's a Harry Turtledove book, and those are always pretty good. So, the next one is the only one that I don't have a physical copy of, and it's the only 2 books from this author that I don't have a physical copy of, and that is Puppet Masters by Dale Brown. This was very different from his military thriller stuff. This was much more in the vein of being a spy thriller, techno thriller kind of mashup. A lot of technology and a lot of spycraft. This one I gave 4 stars as well. Definitely the least favorite Dale Brown that I've read thus far. Probably because I was going into it with the expectation of it being more of a military thriller, and it turned out not to be quite that. But still a great book. I recommend it if you're into spy thrillers at all, like James Bond or Jason Bourne. Like if you like that kind of stuff, I feel like you'd like Puppet Masters by Dale Brown and Jim DeFelice. The next one I listened to, but then I got the hard copy of it as I was listening to it, and that is Preston and Child's Gideon's Sword. This one was fantastic. This one I gave a 4.5 star rating, so it was almost a 5, but just not there. And honestly, it probably could have been a 5 if it was just a little bit better. But there was some stuff in here that it was a Preston and Child kind of as you read more of certain authors' books, you realize like the tendencies with like language that they have, and that when that does happen, it kind of it it's a pet peeve of mine, and I did notice that in this book. So it did kind of suffer from that pet peeveness of turns of phrase that are used throughout the book, like repeatedly, and other books that I've read from them. But as as it goes in life, we all have our kind of catchphrases and ways that we describe things. So maybe it suffers a little bit from my personal bias. But yeah, Gideon's Sword was fantastic. This is about a terminally ill patient that's brought into a super secret kind of organization to help national security, who are contracted through the government but act as like kind of a black ops thing. um it's just fantastic book. I mean, Preston and Child have never given me a book that wasn't fantastic, so there it is. Yeah. So yeah, Gideon's Sword, fantastic, 4.5 stars. Um, and away we go. So now we're into. Oh, actually, I read 10 books this month because I forgot one that I also listened to. Um, the next one is the last 4.5 star read that I read, and that was Necroscope #4, and that is Dead Speak by Brian Lumley. This one was great. Um, the only thing that it suffers from is that it's leading up to a huge book 5, and you definitely get the feeling that this book was the lead up to something bigger. Not to say that it wasn't a complete story in its own right, because it was. It just hit less than the first 3 books, and you could tell that this was setting up for that big book 5. But other than that, I mean, Harry Keogh in this book is phenomenal. He's going through more problems than we've seen him go through in the series thus far. And one of the most intriguing villains that we have is in this book as well, with Janos Ferenzi. So yeah, just an amazing book. Another banger from Brian Lumley. This guy writes vampires like nobody's business. And like I said, when I started reading the series, I'm not a vampire guy. I was, we're also burnt out on like zombies, vampires, werewolves, like the typical tropes of horror, that when somebody can come along and do a vampire story like Necroscope, 100%, I'm in. Chef's kiss, let's go. So now diving into the 5-star reads for the month and the top 4 for the month of July. So coming in at number 4 is Ashley Bell by Dean Koontz. This was recommended to me by Timothy Ivy on his channel, and just a fantastic book. I really enjoyed this one. It's very trippy, very esoteric in its storytelling, in the storytelling in itself. We get a lot of the Dean Koontz characters of, you get the Vietnam vet, you get the Marine vet, you get the, the government-ness of it, but not too strong. Like in most of his other books, there's a pretty heavy government conspiracy. This one is not so much, but still amazing. We get the writer protagonist, which happens in quite a few books, and just a phenomenal story overall. It would have ended up higher if I read less good books. But yeah, this is a perfect number 4 slot, and just amazing work by Dean Koontz. He's quickly becoming one of those authors that I have to read a lot more of. So number 3 is Still Life with Crows by Preston and Child, or Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child, and this is book 4 in the Pendergast series. This is the first book in the Pendergast series where we go outside of New York, because the first 3 books all take place in New York, just different cases that Pendergast is working on. This one we go to Kansas, and this book has everything that you could want from a thriller, a mystery thriller. Just fantastic. There's the essence of something possibly supernatural as it goes in the Pendergast series, and just a phenomenal cast of characters. Um, Pendergast, the small town aspects of this are just captured in 100% living color, and just the way that they describe the Midwest is just on point, perfect, and a fantastic book. I mean, honestly, this is my favorite one of the Pendergast series thus far, and I'm so excited to continue going in to farther into the Pendergast series, because this was just a phenomenal book. Um, so number two is also inspired by Timothy Ivy's channel, and that is Monster Hunter Vendetta. So he just read Monster Hunter International Book One. I read that a while ago and have always wanted to come back to the series and just hadn't got around to it. But then seeing him and his reaction to Monster Hunter International got me on the kick again, and I am so freaking glad I did. Um, this book had me laughing so hard at points that, like, I don't laugh out loud when I read books, but I did with this one. Um, Particularly the gangster gnomes. Just a phenomenal sequence of events. The way that they portray gnomes, which are fantastic creatures, but they kind of work as like street gangs in the book, and it is absolutely like hilarious. But yeah, so we follow Owen Zastava Pitt in this book again, and his fiance Julie. Yes, and just a phenomenal book. Monster Hunter, this series, I cannot wait to go farther in this, because uh, I forgot how funny Larry Correa's writing was, and it was just top notch. Belly laughs at some of these points in the book, and just like I said, those gangster gnomes got me, man. Like, I don't know where he comes up with this shit, but keep doing it, Larry Correa. And then my favorite book of the month, or my favorite book of this month, was James Rollins's Amazonia. This book was something I had bought because I wanted to read more standalones, and I had no idea what I was walking into. And what I walked into was a crazy adventure story about an Amazon expedition um, that was lost in the woods, but the guy came back with basically a really bad virus, and now it's starting to spread. The team goes in there. There's a brother and sister. There's a guy who lost his father on the original expedition, and just nonstop, pulse racing, edge of your seat thriller throughout the entire novel, and just a fantastic read. There's also like the hint of supernatural stuff going on with a cannibalistic kind of tribe in the Amazon, and they're also being pursued by another drug company's mercenaries. Um, and just like I said, it's high flying action, edge of your seat thriller, 100% all the way through. This was the second book from James Rollins that I've read. The first being Sandstorm, which is Sigma Force Book One, and then one of his standalones. After I read Amazonia, I had to go and buy all of his standalones, because this guy can write a standalone like nobody's business. I also purchased a lot of the Sigma Force books, because his thrillers are just fantastic. I mean, Sandstorm and Amazonia were top-notch thrillers that they just stick with you. So with that being said, that's the book of the month. And as far as channel news, most if not all of these, have reviews on the channel already. If they don't, they're coming soon. Because I know I have to do one for Monster Hunters, and I think that's it. I think everything else has a review. But yeah, so Monster Hunters, the review for that will be coming out soon. Probably be wearing the same shirt because I'll probably record it right after this, as well as a couple other ones. So, in other news, what am I reading now, you might ask? Well, I just finished on August 5th, I think, or 4th. Hold on. I finished this on August 5th, and that is Steve Berry's Templar Legacy. This was a book that I had in my car for like over a year, that car book that I've been working through. Well, I finally got the chance to enjoy that when I took my son to Aquatica for his birthday, and I ripped through that entire book. My kid's like 13, so he just goes off and does what he does with his friends. So I had 4 hours to just sit and read. I finished that book. What I'm currently reading, I'm starting today, book 5 in Pendergast, Brimstone. And then I'm also listening to book 2 of the Puppet Master series, Revenge. So look out for those reviews on the channel as well, because those will be coming soon. I'm about halfway through Revenge. This one I'm starting. Templar Legacy will need its own review. And of course, with me not starting new series, Templar Legacy does put me on, I think, like an 18 or 19 book series at this point, if not more. So we're not doing real well with not starting any more long series, but that's where we are. And in other news, just stay tuned, because I'm thinking about doing videos about writing advice as well, from just based off of what I do for my daily job, editing books. I'm going to start doing some like introductions to writing videos. So look out for those, because those are on the schedule to be recorded. So look out for those, and until next time, read, because reading is fundamental.